I am Michael Laine, and joining me today is Dr. Val, and we have a special guest with us today, Dr. Val, don't we? I'm going to let you introduce our special guest and bring him on in.
I'm pretty excited about our special guest. This is Dr. Omar, and he is a parasitologist, and he's the guy that actually taught me how to get a good sample for parasites. And that works better than the Mayo Clinic, apparently. So I'm pretty excited to have our professional as well as other health practitioners. We have everybody from MDs and DOs and nurse practitioners, RNs, naturopathic doctors, oriental medical doctors, chiropractors, and then we have the whole gamut of all kinds of other health practitioners as well. And so this will be a good thing for everybody to learn, because parasites are pretty devastating, especially when they go unchecked. So, Dr. Omar, would you please give us a bio about yourself? How'd you get to be a parasitologist, and where did all this start?
Well, actually, it starts in my childhood years. My my dad was an MD, and I was basically observing what he did all around, and I loved what he did. But in the same time, I wanted to be on the preventive end of the field, rather than wait till the patients get sick or ready to die, then I come in, I rush in to help. So I wanted to be in the preventive field and studying and evaluating parasite infections, which, as we all know, are responsible not just for acute infections, but for a lot of chronic diseases, including cancer. We have cancer patients that we work with in which there is parasite involvement in their conditions. So I like being at this end of things rather than the other side.
I totally understand. I've got an allopathic background, and then I went into naturopathic medicine, and I prefer that myself because it's preventative, and it saves the people from having to go through so many terrible things. And I just, as a naturopath, I absolutely love doing parasite cleanses, and I've done a whole bunch of them in my life. Yeah. Some with some really crazy results. And trying to talk modern Americans into it, though, is a whole other subject, because people tend to think that they don't have parasites. It's like, oh no, that's a third world thing. That's not something that happens here in modern society. But as you know, it happens all too often. So I have asked Michael to ask you some questions that every man would ask, not a medical professional, just somebody on the street or some, one of our people, subscribers, that would like to do a parasite cleanse but doesn't really know anything about it. And, I would go too far into medical stuff and maybe lose some people. So, Michael, you have some questions. Go ahead, please.
I do. So, Dr. Omar, just to start things off, how do we contract parasites?
I have one publication that addresses that issue, and I've classified 8 major reasons by which a person can contract parasites. Drinking water is a way to get Cryptosporidium and Giardia infections. There's about 20% of U.S. households in about 20 states and in 4 provinces in Canada, where you have documented the presence of Giardia and Cryptosporidium in tap water at home. So you don't have to have been traveling anywhere to contract it. Skin contact with contaminated water, such as the case of schistosomiasis, and where immature stages of parasites can penetrate the skin. Food, of course, all diseases start with the mouth intake of food items, food and drink that may have been contaminated. Insects, Lyme disease, plague, malaria, the list goes on. Air, sometimes with certain viruses, all you have to do is just breathe into someone's face and the infection takes place. Pets, I dare say that some people are not happy to hear this, but dogs are not man's best friend.
I have heard that.
Yeah, and that's dogs and cats and any other pets that may be the reservoirs of infectious agents from the wild, or dogs that go out and in, or cats that are not staying at home all the time, that get contract infections from the outdoors. People to people transmission of infections, such as the case of AIDS and herpes. And then the soil, especially people that are, this is number 8 in my list, where you come to touch spores and transmission stages of parasites from the soil that you handle as you plant, as you dig, as you do what you do in your garden. Quite often, depends where the soil is, and
Wow.
quite often, especially in the South, and especially when you like we all eat lettuce from some place or the other. I'm in Arizona. We assume that about 50% of our lettuce is grown in Mexico. And if you know, it's not ethnic, but a lot of human fertilizers are used to fertilize fresh produce. And if you are not careful washing every single leaf of lettuce that comes your house, not knowing that it may have come from some contaminated source, then you're opening yourself to trouble. So those are the 8 major ones. The most important of them, I imagine, is food and drink. The most serious infections, Ascaris, blastocystis, entamoeba species, and the like, come from food items that have been contaminated by infected source. Actually, we have done a piece of research which might open your appetite to the subject in a very famous restaurant in Los Angeles, and we have surveyed all workers in the restaurant, including receptionists, for their under fingernail swabs. And we found out that every single person, 100% of the workers in that very famous food chain, which I will not mention their name, have parasitic infections under their fingernails.
Wow.
Yeah. So the possibilities are wide open for this mode of transmission.
You know,
Yeah,
and you
thank
mentioned, with the food and
Go ahead.
drink, I'm sorry, Dr. Val, but I was curious, you mentioned the tap water in the beginning.
Yes.
So does it help if we run our water through a filter system? Does that get rid of them?
Well,
Or
it would if the pores of your filter are 4 microns or less.
okay.
But if they are more than 4, if they allow protozoans diameter of 5, 6, 7 and larger, then you are not protected.
Okay.
And
All
would
right, well,
you describe what protozoans are for people that are non-science people?
Protozoans are single-celled organisms that they perform all the biological functions that you and I perform, including breathing, respiration, that is, and feeding and excretion of waste matter. one cell performs all those functions through different components in that one cell.
And those things, people think that that's not common. But years ago, when I was working in Las Vegas, it was very common, and it took out a lot of the people that had AIDS because the Cryptosporidium and Giardia were in the tap water in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
And, they recycle their water. So everything that's in the sewer gets recycled. And, we always tell people, don't drink the water from the tap, whatever you do,
Yeah.
just avoid that like the plague.
Some places I prefer to drink beer.
Yeah.
At least I'm sure then there's no protozoans living in there. But I just
Well,
want
it's like when you
Go ahead.
travel through Mexico, same thing. I mean, I was with a group years ago that we went all the way through Mexico down into Belize and back, and we drank soda the whole time
Yeah.
because you didn't want to drink the water. And the
Right.
one time we went to a famous hotel chain, and we thought, well, okay, we're going to be safe. We're just dying for some ice. And so we had ice in our drinks, and it didn't take too long, and pretty soon we all had amoebiasis, and there we were on Flagyl for a month,
Those
because of that.
organisms will survive freezing under ice that come from a contaminated water source. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
You're not protecting anything.
Yep.
But I just want to mention I support very much the very first opening statement that you said, because I had of late, it happened many times, but of late, a couple of weeks ago, one doctor talked on the phone. He told me, I do not believe in parasites.
No.
I told him,
Wow.
how many parasitology courses did you take in med school?
None.
Nothing.
Yeah.
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 Oh boy, you cannot believe in the sun or in gravity too, but
Yeah.
you might have something else you'd have to call it then, I guess. But yeah, it's serious. People have no idea. And that reminds me, gosh, it's been over 20 years now, but I had one patient that I consulted with you about that I thought she had parasites. And so I sent her to the Mayo Clinic, and the guy looked at her, didn't actually examine her, didn't run any tests, and diagnosed her with delusional parasitosis. And it was a couple of weeks later that she actually died. She ended up in ICU. She died of internal hemorrhaging from parasites going through her vessels.
I'm not surprised. The problem
Yeah.
with our American practitioners is the fact that because they have no background knowledge on parasites and they examine the patient, let's say their annual checkup, and they don't think of running a parasitology test as part of the annual checkup, which many of our doctors do. And so they don't suspect parasites because we are so clean, right? So,
Yeah.
so I say if the patient has some symptoms of any kind that is remotely suggestive of parasites, they don't think and they don't know which test to run to check the patient for parasites. And when the patient comes with a parasite, they do not know how to handle it, how to treat for it. So there's 3 levels of lack of consciousness about treating their patients for parasites. First is the
It's
recognition.
pretty big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's
This is important stuff, which is why I was so excited to have you on the show, because we have got to reach all of the health practitioners out there. They don't have to be doctors to know how to do a good parasite sample and what to check for. And people think they've got food poisoning when sometimes it's a parasite. Like as you mentioned, the protozoans. Those things, you don't see them. You have no idea what's in there. They're tiny. You don't see them with the naked eye. You have to have a microscope, which most people don't have. But, you ingest those and you get what you think is the stomach flu. So people don't think about it. And if they have a strong enough immune system, they might be okay. But most of the time, it's going to kind of stay there until they do something to wipe out the parasites. So,
Actually,
this is serious stuff.
We have this saying here that says, I'll believe it when I see it. So if it's not seen, then it does not exist. But those people that say that are not aware that about 95% of the parasite infection profile in the United States, cross-sectional studies, are all protozoans. Only 5%, no more than 5%, are worm parasites that can be seen with the naked eye.
Wow.
So most of the infections go undetected because they are protozoans and they cannot see it. So they don't suspect it.
You're going to touch
Yeah,
on the
yeah.
3 levels. You mentioned the 3 levels there, Dr. Omar. Or what are the 3 levels?
The ignorance of the physician about the possibility that their patient's symptoms are due to a parasite. That's level 1. Level 2, if they suspect a parasite, there is a level of ignorance about what tests to run to detect parasites. And the third level is once the parasites are identified, what to do about them.
What we're doing at Global Healing Institute is we're taking 25 years of research and we're putting it into a simple approach to teach people.
And it doesn't necessarily mean that you even need to see clients per se. You should be your own certified natural health coach. And for your family, you can be a certified natural health coach. Because it teaches you everything you need to know about why you have different conditions, how to clean up your internal environment, how to clean up your external environment, the importance of cleansing and healing the gut, the importance of cleansing and healing the liver, the importance of getting the parasites out of your body.
We're here to teach what good health means in our lives, creating a learning platform that motivates and inspires you to continue to learn the things that you're passionate about, ultimately so you can be the best coach for your client.
What exactly is an adequate parasite cleanse?
Well, I have my own philosophies which I inflict on my staff and my practice here, and that is the word parasite cleanse is misleading because you think that you cleanse the body from parasites, but it is much more than that. Our remedy is made of 3 formulations. I'll use it as an example. First is a clear, which kills the parasites. So it's a parasite kill.
Okay.
And then the second component is called cleanse. In the cleanse, you recycle the dead parasites, the parasite kill, as well as the still living parasite metabolic byproducts through the system and get them from the intestine to being cleansed out of the system. And that requires different formulations of herbal remedies, which do not essentially kill the parasites, but recycle the output of the parasite metabolic pathways. And the third formulation is what we call restore, and that is remedies that will regenerate and reformulate damaged body tissues like intestinal lining or liver lining or what have you that could have been damaged by the parasite presence, feeding, or migration. And our remedy requires the patient to take the 3 formulations: to kill the parasite, cleanse the parasite, and coordinate with other organ systems. And third is to restore damaged tissue back to its normal, healthy balance and status.
And then how do you do that in cycles? So you go like 3 weeks in between or 6
No,
weeks in
we
between?
don't. We've tried everything possible, and we don't like the cycles stuff, because when you cycle and then you stop for a while, then the stopping period allows the parasite to have time to build a drug-resistant population that is harder to kill when you get back into the next cycle. So we don't want the parasite to have any breathing space. So there's no cycle. You have to take the remedy continuously without any lapses or breaks for at least 3 months in acute cases and 5 months in chronic cases. And for cancer cases, patients take them sometimes for 1 or 2 years, and the patient in many cases recover, and their cancer therapists are very shocked and surprised. They say, I did not do anything for you. What made you back so well? What happened? What did you do? And that is because cancer is not just one disease. Cancer is many different entities. Some of them, a whole category of cancer, is caused by parasites that destroy the immune system. And this is another long story which we can get into if you like. So the cancer cases that are related to parasites are treatable by our remedy. But cancer cases which are caused by other agents, not parasites, and there are many of those also, are not amenable to being treated by parasite cleanse.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, definitely.
And that's, kind of brings it up. You kind of answered it partially, but, if you wanted to expand on that, Dr. Omar, for the people out there, some people that are, skeptical. Yeah, I run into them all the time, they think rarely do people get parasites. They're strictly something maybe for animals and dogs or whatever. So how to explain, why does a person need to do a parasite cleanse? I know you touched on the cancer, but even in non-cancerous situations and everything, what's the best way to explain to someone why they should be doing a parasite cleanse and doing it regularly?
I'll give you a parallel story. I have friends that work on horse parasites in Sweden. A lot of work in Sweden about horses for some ungodly reason. And horses in Sweden get a parasite cleanse routinely without questions asked once a year. No questions asked. Once a year you do it. And I figured out if we should be a little bit better than horses from Sweden by looking after our own health and going through this the proper way. I have doctors that require their patients to take a parasitology test once every year with their annual checkup. It's routine for them. Of all the tests that you include in the checkup, include a test for parasites and bacteria and fungi, which we are equipped to do. And you would be surprised how much those annual tests that are done without any particular intelligent reason, but during an annual checkup for a seemingly healthy person, how much they can reveal and they can help.
Okay, so once a year, if they do a parasite cleanse once a year, that's adequate for the average person?
That will be adequate if you are routinely doing an annual checkup. I do that every year with my doctor too. Include a parasite test among the battery of tests that this doctor runs. We have many doctors that do that as a normal practice.
And so what kind of tests should people be asking their doctors for?
Just to run, to test for possibility of parasites. It is basically
the ONP, ova and parasites.
It is basically a stool test, which is run in two different ways. Run through the actual visual parasite detection methodology, and also run through bacteriology methodology to isolate any possible non-fecal infections, such as pathogenic bacteria, which are very often implicated in many symptoms that defy traditional parasitology symptoms, but they are comparable. So, for instance, E. coli or Klebsiella, when found in the gut flora, they will produce similar symptoms to those that are produced by protozoans and worm parasites, and you cannot tell. So sometimes, as you may remember, a patient may have serious intestinal symptoms, but their intestinal symptom test for parasites shows negative. But when you run the bacteriology and fungal test, you'll see a lot of positive pathogenic bacteria that are involved in the production of those symptoms. So you need to look at the total intestinal flora, not just the parasites, but also the pathogenic bacteria and fungus.
I know I found a lot of people getting blastocystis hominis, and that was kind of a surprise. I mean, we never even heard about that in naturopathic medical school. You know, everybody thinks they have yeast, and most people do, but not that particular one. And I remember you telling me about how pathogenic that one is.
Yeah.
And it was like, wow, and this is popping up in a lot of people, and nobody's doing anything about it. They don't even put them on a yeast killing regimen.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of worried about that. You know, could you kind of explain to people why that could be a problem?
Well, the problem, other than the physical symptoms, such as loss of appetite and diarrhea and constipation sometimes, and all sorts of GI symptoms, they can also the byproduct of the metabolism of blastocystis and similar protozoans. Some people have allergic reaction to the metabolic byproducts of these organisms. And then you develop a classical allergic reaction, which can cause more serious and different kinds of damage than the immediate acute intestinal tract infections. So
yeah, and I think that could have a lot to do with some of the people who are constantly having allergies, and I think it's seasonal allergies. And in actuality, it's that particular protozoan that's caused all of the problems.
yeah,
And you know, they don't know anything about it. They have no clue to even look for something like that. And they have like allergies that change. This is what I'm thinking is the problem, is that, you know, one day they're allergic to one substance, and then the next day they're not. And then a couple days later, it's a different substance. And none of these things are in the same classification of foods. So it's like, okay, that's really weird. And it seems to me that blastocystis could be the reason that they're having those reactions.
I would not be surprised, and I will give you here. I know you're going to be asking this question, so I'm ready for you. I'll read out a list I prepared for you for the extra intestinal symptoms that are not associated with the digestive tract, that are produced by metabolic byproducts of protozoans like blastocystis. Fatigue, skin rash, dry cough, brain fog, lymph blockage, allergies, nausea, muscle pain, joint pain, memory loss, dermatitis, headaches, and insomnia.
And a lot of people have those.
All directly related. And when a patient goes to the doctor and he dismisses parasite, and the patient has one or more of those symptoms, the doctor never suspects parasites because they don't look like parasitic symptoms.
Well, the patient comes in and says, I've got allergies.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just seasonal allergies.
Yeah.
Or, you know, I suddenly am allergic to this, that, and the other, and I was never allergic before.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, like I have a friend now that's going through all this allergy stuff, and I'm going, okay, that's just a little weird. You know, allergies don't work that way, where you're allergic one day and you're not allergic the next, and then all of a sudden you're allergic to something else. That makes no sense. So
See,
I think I'm going to tell him to get tested.
you put your
Protozoa.
you put your finger on it when you said I wasn't that allergic before, but now I'm getting more allergies because allergies from chemicals like metabolic byproducts of parasite is a cumulative allergy. It has a cumulative nature. The more you add into the system of the metabolic byproducts of parasites, the more the symptoms get stronger and they appear more evident than in the past because you keep adding, you keep piling up in the same container, the same pot, with the same body. You pile up more chemicals because the parasites are there. So
Then it becomes actually multiple chemical sensitivity as well.
exactly.
Yeah. Interesting.
So out of
Go
these
ahead, Michael. Ask your
symptoms,
questions. I'm sorry.
yeah, no worries. No, this is all great stuff. I love it. Because as you guys are talking, it spurs other questions in me. But it's so those are symptoms when someone has parasites. When they're on your protocol, your 90-day protocol, Dr. Omar, what symptoms can they expect when you're doing the cleanse, when you're killing them off, die off symptoms, that type of thing? Is it something severe they can expect? Is it mild? What are they going to go through during that 90 days of getting rid of the parasites?
What we normally observe is that the symptoms will not disappear instantly. The symptoms will actually increase somewhat for the first couple of weeks on the average, or 1 or 3 weeks, and then they start subsiding and plateauing, then gradually disappearing. That's why we need that 3 months window
Right.
for them to get out of the system. So we tell the patients after they start taking our remedy, week 1, they call back worried. My symptoms are worse. I told you symptoms are worse because the remedy is working. Don't be alarmed. It will be worse for 1 more week or whatever. And then if they don't go out of your system by week 3, then let's talk. And then usually they're out by that time. Actually, we have a very high recovery rate and patients that testified how our remedy have saved their lives after trying everything else and after spending all their money in all the wrong places before coming.
Yeah, and that kind of brings in my next question. Do the die-off symptoms, do they ever get too strong for a patient?
They can if the patient has allergies to some of the metabolic byproducts of the parasites or allergies to 1 or more of the ingredients of the remedy. So we advise to cut the dose in half for 1 or 2 weeks, then resume once the body regains its normalcy. Yeah.
Okay. So once it regains its normalcy, so they're always able to go back on to the cleanse then at some point.
Yeah. Once the body begins to develop tolerance to the chemistry, we have examined every ingredient that we put in our remedies, have been thoroughly researched, and we have accounted for its cycle and this pH in particular, because our remedies, the 3 formulations, are 1 is given in the evening, 1 is given in the morning, and 1 is given in the afternoon, in times corresponding to having a certain pH to which our remedy that's given at that time is geared to work with in a proper way. So you cannot mix the remedies any whichever time that you want to, because they are given at times when the pH is most conducive for the ingredients to work well when they're given.
And what are those? Can you talk about what are some of the ingredients that you recommend?
For the Freedom, which is the parasite kill product, we recommend thyme leaf, watermelon seed, ginseng root, rosemary, rangoon creeper, aloe vera, clam bark, and hyssop leaf. And then there are other ingredients in the proprietary blend for the Freedom, including garlic bulb, olive leaf extract, pumpkin seed, grapefruit seed extract, wild harvested pomegranate, clove bulb, black walnut hull, peppermint leaf, black cumin seed, wormwood, fennel seed, caprylic acid, papaya leaf, and oregano leaf. These are just for the Freedom, which is the parasite kill product. And
That's
some of the ingredients here that I have researched. I haven't mentioned this because it's not relevant, but I'm a student of ancient Egyptian medicine. And ancient Egyptians have a whole slew of herbal remedies that they gave for different reasons. So I'm using some of the ancient Egyptian remedies in our remedies here. For instance, pomegranate, for instance, harvested wild pomegranate. You would never find any parasite cleanse anywhere in town or in the country that uses pomegranates.
I don't believe I've ever heard of one. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Interesting.
and so on down the line. I have a corresponding panel of herbs for the cleanse and herbs for the restore, for the regeneration of tissues to bring them back to normalcy. If you like, I can read them out for you too.
Sure. Yeah, I'm kind of intrigued because this is quite a list.
Yeah.
So these are all off from your products, correct? That can anybody buy these products off you?
Yes, you can just buy them directly. You don't even need to talk to me. You can just buy them online from
Okay.
the website directly. Or if you want some advice as to how to handle it and when and what have you, then you can call the office and the office can make the order for you. But there's no prescription required. We tried to get permission from the FDA. Is it called FDA? Yeah.
FDA,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. And they said you don't need permission. So
Good.
don't worry about it.
Good.